Good evening. This is the Government Operations Committee. It's Monday, October 6th. It is 7:11 p.m. We have a fairly lengthy agenda, so we're going to move right into it. The voting members of this committee are Councillor Beck, Councillor Dean, Councillor Maller. I'm Sue Hawes, the chair, and we have one member missing. Our first item is the Cross Insurance Center and State Fair update. Are you giving that?
I am not. I am very excited to introduce Jake Berkowitz.
Jake. What's his name?
Berkowitz.
Berkowitz. Okay.
Jake is the recently installed manager of the Cross Insurance Center. Jake comes to us most recently from Georgia. He's moved his whole family up here recently to Bangor. And so I'm excited to take over management of the Cross Insurance Center. And you have, did you want to check?
Yes,
as well?
Chad, you want to come on up? Come on up. Thank you, Carol.
I think this for you.
You're trying to hide in the back.
And virtual house.
Yes, so we'll get, thank you, Carolyn, for the introduction. So yes, a little bit about myself before we get into the fair. Jake Berkowitz, recently started as a general manager here in Cross Insurance Center, but it's not the first time I've worked at the Cross Insurance Center. I lived in the Bangor area. I actually started my career here over a decade ago. So when the building opened in 2014, I was one of the event managers. I was here for 4 years, loved it. It was a great job, great community. It was really how I got started in the career in my industry. And then from there, kind of moved around within the industry a bit. Originally from the Philadelphia area, so went back to Philadelphia, lived in DC, back to Philadelphia, and then most recently in Georgia, where I've been there for 3 years, and happy to be back in Bangor, here with my wife and my daughter. But yeah, so it was, I was pleasantly surprised when I got the opportunity to come back. So, yeah. I think we'll get right in. Any other questions before we get into the fair? And then I'll do the talking. I'll have Chad here as well. So Chad is our director of finance, who's really, I think someone else, I've been the adult in the room for our building, specifically within the past few months, however you want to call it. He really oversaw the fair, but also oversaw everything kind of day-to-day operations with our venue. So he's really held it down a lot. Well, before I got here, and he's still holding it down while I'm here. So he'll be kind of adding in. He's got a good eye for the fair, and really, so he helped me put this presentation together. So we'll get started.
Okay.
All right. So the Bangor State Fair, it just happened about 2 months ago now. So it was, I think, the last week of July through the first weekend of August. Spanned 2 weeks, but 2 full weekends. But we as we go to the next slide. And that talks about our attendance numbers. So this is kind of what we want to highlight. I see all the total numbers per day. So we're open, I believe it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then open again Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the last weekend. So if there's a total of 7 event days, paid attendance of just over 17,000. 6,000 with ride tickets and wristbands sold, and then total gross of 477,000 in rides plus gate. So we sell individual tickets to get into the fair, and then separate tickets for the rides. That's the total attendance numbers. And then underneath you can see each day we have a kind of a highlight event at night. So some harness racing, demolition derby, which is also always a fun one. Truck pulls and tractor pulls, and then we kind of run it back the next weekend. And those events are generally in the evening at the grandstand, kind of on the infield. So folks are sitting on the grandstand, and you go to the next slide. Dad, feel free to jump in. And this is, I wanted to give you guys a kind of recap of this year, but also compared to our past 5 years now. So we did not have the fair in 2020 due to COVID. We came back out in 2021. And that was, I believe, when we started this 7-day affair for the fair, if you will. We used to do 2 straight weeks, but we found the weekdays for lack of a better word, just wasn't worth to be open. So since 2021, we've had 7 days worth of fare. You can see the numbers. So compared to last year, our total attendance was down, but our revenue was up, which is just kind of for our business operations. We were able to change some operations around to really boost our revenue, and that's what we're looking to do next year as well. Hopefully with more people as well. So kind of we're gradually making more money. We did see a little bit of a trickle down in our attendance, and I'll get to a few reasons why a little bit later on. So one of the things that the team worked on this year was really strengthening and reestablishing our relationship, the venue, the fair, and then the whole community outreach. And one of the things we did this year for our parking. So parking is another revenue stream of ours. We do charge for parking, and we had the help of Bangor Christian and John Baptist schools. So they were actually helping out on our parking staff, directing people where to park. And then we all donated some funds back to their athletic programs for their operational help. And then the other objective of ours was to really broaden the entertainment in the fair. So whether it's the vendors, whether it's the games, the carnival, the rides, we really did our best to kind of have something for everything. Additionally, the agricultural area is a huge thing for the fair. When I was here 10 years ago, we had, I think it was called the Barns. So the ag area was kind of distant from the fair. It kind of felt like separate, completely separate. Within the past 4 or 5 years, we moved the agricultural area inside the arena. So it is fuller. It makes it more accessible for patrons. There's more of a connection to the Cross Center, and also just it gives us opportunity to have more animals and more kind of fun for the family, for the kids. So we highlighted some numbers here. We had over 460 animals inside the center. Range from all types of animals there. We had 37 head of Belgian Galloways. We had the first annual Paul Bunyan Open Jackpot Show. Anything else to add, Chad, that you think was worthwhile this year that was new? Or
the Belgian Galloway Show and the Paul Bunyan Open Jackpot Show were both nationally ranked shows. They bring in presenters from all over New England for those two shows. We had people as far away from New York that came up for the weekend to show their animals.
I will say something that's not on here that Chad actually mentioned to me today. Through all this effort into the agriculture area, we are now hosting the Maine Agricultural Fair Association event at our venue this January. I believe it's been an annual event in Portland that has been in Portland for as long as anyone can remember. And this year they're coming to Bangor. We hope to make it an annual event at our venue. It makes sense to have the fair event at our venue. So that is something that we strive. It was not our intention going into the fair, but we're happy to kind of look at that.
It's a beef show. That was one of the bigger national ones that we were able to attract to be our indoor facility.
Moving on, I alluded to our slightly lower attendance. I want to kind of just mention a couple of things of why it happened. Competition, which is obviously it's part of the game, it's going to happen, but there were some other events going on in Bangor, but also within the state, specifically 2 other fairs within the state were happening during the second weekend. Unfortunately, that's a little bit out of our control as far as the fair schedule. It's something that Chad and I have talked about for this year to see if we can get out ahead of it, if we can work with the other fairs. So that's something that at this fair association, we're going to discuss that potential to not work against each other. It is an outdoor event. Weather happens. We had some rain, I believe was the first weekend. So that definitely deterred some people. And then something that is definitely in our control that we admit that we dropped the ball a little bit was marketing of the event. Marketing is obviously a key role in promoting any event. Unfortunately, we did have a transition. I think we lost both of our marketing managers leading up to the event. We have since hired that role, so we are full for marketing, but we did, it was something that I noticed, I think Chad noticed, someone else even said it to us before we mentioned to them, that it was just a lack of marketing in the area about the event. So we own up to that. That's something we've already fixed and we're going to fix for next year specifically for the fair. I can happily say our marketing manager comes from us within the company. So he's hit the ground running. He's extremely strong. So I don't have any concerns there.
One of the comments that I heard from fair goers
Yes.
is the fact that the agriculture's back.
Yeah.
And we've always had that connection. It's always been the Bangor State Fair, known for agriculture. But it's also been highly rated being inside the facility because it's close to the animals, families can go in, off. Interesting that there were 2 concerts during that second weekend. Now, at one time, there was a discussion that maybe the Cross Center and Alex could have some sort of an arrangement that they wouldn't do that on fair days. But I don't know if that's possible or not. I mean, he has to make his season like now.
Yeah.
So it would be hard to do, but that is kind of the entertainment district between you, the waterfront, the casino. It's nice if it could all end the horse racing.
Yeah.
That's the other piece that somehow has to connect in there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's actually something kind of not fair related, but it ties back to it is the entertainment corridor, us, casino and the waterfront really working together, not against each other. We're all in a similar industry. We're all in the event entertainment corridor, but we're not. The events that Alex is hosting is different than the events that we're hosting, different than the events that the casino are hosting. So to your point, it's definitely working together rather than working against each other. And that is a goal of mine in my position to kind of help, I don't know if repair is the right word, but help restore the relationship. When I was here a decade ago, I saw my general manager who I thought from my point of view did a very good job of having that relationship with Alex specifically, but also just the whole community. So it's something that is on my to-do list.
Okay.
Yeah, equipment support. This just kind of talks about some of the work that our team did. It wasn't just Chad. We have a whole team at the Cross Center. So we kind of divide and conquer. There's generally 1 or 2 people are overseeing the operation, but we have it's all hands on deck. So you have subcommittees, a couple people focus on grandstand events, attractions, entertainment, the vendors, the agriculture area, or overall logistics, parking, and safety, and marketing, which you talked about. And then we also have the support from folks in Bangor, the CIC Advisory Board, the agriculture fair, and then our company, Oakview Group, supports this event, has been supporting this event since the building opened. So that will continue moving on. And then looking ahead a little bit at 2026 Bangor State Fair, because although we just finished up 25, it's going to come right around the corner. So as of now, the schedule, you can see it out here. The first day of the fair would be Thursday, July 30th. That would be Thursday through Sunday, off Monday through Wednesday, and then the last weekend, August 6th, 7th, and 8th. One thing that Chad and I have already discussed is potentially opening on that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That would give us more event days, give us a chance to get more people in, but also could offset the competition. If another fair is open during the weekend only, it gives people a reason to come to our fair during the week. And then talk about marketing and then focus leadership. One thing that I want to do is have kind of talk about the subcommittees, but really have one person kind of oversee from a venue side the operation. And I think Chad has He has volunteered, and I think he's, I was thinking of him already, but he did tell me he wants to take it on, so I think it's gonna be great to have. And I don't know what it's been in the past, if it really has been kind of completely divide and conquer and not one single focus, so I think having one experienced person singly focused on the whole operation will only help us. We'll still have the subcommittees, it'll still be all hands on deck, but having one person kind of in charge will make things run smoother. Any questions specifically about the fair? Yes.
Back in the day, you used to have some big name.
Yeah.
It was probably a free concert. Louisville Fair did it, Anglos Fair did it. You don't see that anymore.
Mhm.
Is that because it's no longer affordable or the waterfront?
So I don't know specifically who the artists were. One of the things I would like to do for the fair and at the grandstand is to have a concert. I know we threw it was thrown around last year. It didn't happen. I can't say if it would be free with a fair ticket or if it'd be a separate ticket. That's logistics we have to figure out. But I do think there's an opportunity to have a big name performer playing at the grandstand. The one, you call it down, the agricultural area inside the arena. We then can't have a concert inside the arena, but we have the option to do something a little bit bigger on the grant. And we do have live music throughout the day on the fairgrounds in our tent, but that's more of a one piece kind of background music. But yes, I agree. I think there's definitely an opportunity for bigger name. Any other fair related question? Oh, last slide. Just want to give everyone a kind of general update about the Cross Center. Obviously with the transition, myself taking over as GM. There's some all good news, but past events, we just had our team had a busy end of September. We had back-to-back concerts inside the arena. So we had Gabriel Iglesias, the comedian, and then Wheel of Fortune the next day. So that was a challenge for our operations team to set up the whole building, turn it over, and have a completely new event. So that was a good, and I was pleasantly not surprised. I was very happy to see how the team did. It was my first kind of time seeing the event run at the building as the GM. So I was very happy how things went. Some upcoming events. We have a big MMA conference this week, which I think there'll be a lot of faces at that. Local faces at the venue. We also have next week, not listed here, is the Maine State Chamber event. So that's a big event. At the end of the month, we have Tina Turner. And then we have a couple other Broadway shows, Hadestown, sorry. We have, I think, Kinky Boots, and we have one other one in the spring. That's part of our Broadway series. Hudson versus Maine basketball is playing at the end of this month. And then also we're having our Maine Harvest Fest, our annual kind of vendor show right before Thanksgiving. And then we're announcing a couple shows this week. So my plan as a GM is to be as busy as possible. It's a beautiful building, whether it's ticketed event, private event, community event. We have an arena, we have a convention center. It should be busy. So my plan is to kind of make it as busy as possible. And then personnel changes, besides myself, we have a new event manager, new senior marketing manager, and a new executive chef who all started in the past 2 or 3 months. So those roles have been filled. We still have 2 open roles, director of events and a catering manager. I'm really gonna try my best to kind of boost our sales and catering team, kind of rearrange and add, because that is where the convention center is where all the majority of events are, between small meetings, large conferences, and that's where the catering is as well. So that is the goal, to really get more events in our building.
That's good news.
That's what we're there for.
There was probably 2 managers that we had concern. I mean, we had this beautiful building sitting there, and every night it was dark and there was nothing over there. So that prompted a lot of conversation and the updates, having the center come in and talk about, because it's great. I mean, it's a revenue producer for the city. So
Should be. Absolutely.
glad to hear you're on that track. Any other questions for? What? No comments?
Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have the Advisory Committee on Racial Equity, Inclusion and Human Rights. They have an updated resolve recommendation.
Yeah, I know representatives from the committee are present. I believe Katie Bryden and Shane Boyes are welcome to join the table if they would like to. The council may remember that this item was at the last government operations committee meeting. And it did go back to the committee, the advisory committee, for further conversation. And there's actually an updated result that was included in your packet. But I will, sorry, the council has, I will turn it over to Katie, just in case I missed anything. She's chair of the advisory committee on racial equity and inclusion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, happy to be back. Thank you again for your time this evening to look over this. So it does, as you might notice, look different from our last meeting, shorter, excuse me. We had some really fantastic meetings actually in between when we met with you. We had the great opportunity to meet with our chief of police and our city solicitor, as well as our city manager and our assistant city manager, to really talk about what the goal of this resolve is, what the actual challenges that might be. You know, a lot of our community members, why they were asking for this, why this was important to them, and what the resolve actually needed to say in a way that can not be provocative of any nefarious, attention that we don't want on our city. But also really make sure that the individuals that have come to us and asked for this are felt like they're being seen and heard. And what does that little middle ground look like? And so this resolve, we think, really outlined the procedure of what would happen should our city be asked to ever enter into a 287G agreement, which we made clear last time that was never asked. But if it were, what exists out there to actually tell folks what exactly happens, and how will folks understand that in a way that doesn't feel like, I think it's very easy to get swayed by things you see on the news. It feels very scary. But being able to say, hey, we're the city of Bangor, we recognize that we want to be a place where everyone is welcome and they should feel safe and dignified here. And if there is a process, here it is. Here it is outlined. Again, we were really lucky to have so much time from the chief of police and the city solicitor to go over this with us and really outline what that procedure is, so that it just answers every question that folks might have as to, is ICE here? What is ICE doing? What will happen to me if ICE does appear? This is what this resolve affirms. Like, this is the process. This is what we have to go through. And we want to make a good faith effort to all of our citizens to say that, like, we want you here. We want all of you here. We want Bangor to be a welcoming space, and we don't want to put that at risk in any way. So we try to find a marriage between mitigating risk and being very clear in the procedures. We hope that this is what this resolve now does.
And to clarify, we've not created this procedure. It exists already. We're just putting into words what the established procedure already is. And Katie and I were talking before this, we're pretty involved in the happenings of the city and city government, and we had no idea what the procedure was. We didn't even know that there was a procedure until we had that conversation. So what we're trying to do with this is kind of share that information and increase public knowledge and understanding of what would happen if this were to occur.
Questions? Comments?
Yep. So I guess just to make sure I understand what this resolve is and what it is not. This resolve is taking everything that's been said in public meetings and put it in writing. What it is not is creating a sanctuary city. What it is not is telling ICE they can't operate here because we have no authority to tell them that. It is not any attack on the federal government. It is literally taking what we've said in public all city officials, city employees, and put it in writing in a way that everybody in the city can read. I grappled with this because the last conversation we had at this committee was there's the fear of this is going to jeopardize our funding. So I spent time researching. Clearly, there has to be some legal precedent for this. You know, there's got to be a ton of cases out there that shows, the funding has been taken, the courts have allowed that to happen. And I'm here to say that's not the case. I mean, it is loss after loss after loss in these cases. And these are cities that are actually declaring themselves sanctuary cities. They're shaking their fists at the federal government and the court's saying to them, you can't take their funding away. The Constitution says you can't coerce them to engage in a voluntary program. So that's a side of the argument there's no legal basis for. But on the side where why are people afraid? Why are they asking us to do this? And I researched, went into the skeptic, like, come on, really? It's abuse after abuse after abuse. And these aren't illegal immigrants. These are American citizens who were picked out because of the color of their skin. Sometimes 2, 3, 4 times the workplace rates. And the other part, and we want to talk about putting funding at risk, we're talking millions of dollars to the municipalities in fines, fees, settlements. So when I approach this, I'm going to follow the evidence. There's no evidence to support the fear of loss of funding, but there's evidence that there's abuses that happen. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to make a statement about the abuses. It is what it is. I mean, we have no jurisdiction over that. But to me, it's an image issue. We've got a lot of people who got their eyes on this city, who are looking for us some kind of assurance, anything. We've got the bare minimum in front of us that says, here's everything that's been said. That's it, no more, no less. These are things that are already on our books. I hate the message that it would send if we can't put this through, that when it came to that final step of putting in writing what we've said, what kind of message does that send? Because we wouldn't allow a vendor to get away with that. If they said, oh, well, we'll do this, this, this for you. Well, can you put that in writing for us? Whoa, pal, it's the bridge too far. That doesn't work here. I really feel like we need to pass this because, again, it is nothing more than what's already on the books, what's been said, and it's just documenting the facts, period. I'm in favor of this.
I'm not a voting member of this committee, but we just did a resolve just a few months ago to say that we are a welcoming and safe city. And we did that because of a very similar reason. And I think that we have other people in our community that have been in fear in the past year as well, specifically our Jewish community. We've not gone out of our way to come up with a resolve to comfort them. And I think that we have a lot of process that we have within the city that are complicated, and people complain that they have a hard time, such as building permits and rezoning. And so are we going to go out of our way to, again, come in with resolve so that we can specifically guide people to how it is done and where we think to that? I agree there are things happening across the country, but this is Bangor. Our job is Bangor, and I trust our police staff, our police department. I haven't heard that they have a problem. I think we can come back if there's ever a story that the chief or the department or any other community group wants to bring to our attention of something that's happened and concern, we can come back and readdress this. But I still think this draws a target on us, that we are going out of our way to create a resolve against this administration. We're going to come up again with another resolve with the next administration. Our business is Bangor. We just did a resolve to comfort our community. And I'm not going to vote for it.
Councilor Dean? I want to thank you for coming back with this new resolve. I know I was one of the people that asked you to do that. And then I spent the next few weeks worrying that I was going to sit here and feel like a hypocrite, because as much as I believe in it, I wasn't sure that I could support it due to the fact that we all felt that our federal funding could be compromised. But after reading it, it seems really fairly low key. It seems I don't feel that there's any wording in here that would ever be used against us federally. So I have decided the last couple of days that I would support this, because I do feel that the people that it affects have a very real fear. Now, is it a real fear in Bangor? It has become a little bit of a real fear. It's not as major in other areas, but it is starting to creep into Bangor. And I think if it makes people feel better, that they now know that law enforcement will not cooperate, but also saying in here that they may cooperate depending on who they're targeting. Now, if we're talking about a population of illegal immigrants who actually are doing illegal activities, then yes, we should be supporting our law enforcement to go after them. But people who are working as dishwashers, busboys, and helping our community should not be targeted. So I'm going to support this.
Wanted to make sure none of the other counselors wanted to speak first. I just wanted to say, when we had the meeting with the chief and the city solicitor, I think we were just pleasantly surprised with how open and forthcoming everyone was in that conversation. It wasn't, there's not a doubt in my mind, and sorry to speak for you, Katie, but not a doubt in either of our minds that, if something did occur, the chief of police would do the right thing, right? We completely trust that our police department would do the right thing. We completely trust our city manager. And, what we're trying to do with this is not to say, we don't trust you, so we're putting it in writing, so if something happens, we can get you. It's just saying, this is the process and here it is, open and affirming. And, to your point about things being confusing, like building codes, I agree. And I kind of think we should simplify, right? I think that's part of our problem, is that people don't get engaged because they don't understand it or they can't find the information. And so, yes, this is one thing that we can make a little bit more clear. Maybe we should do that with more things that impact the residents of the city. I don't think it should just stop here.
Councilor Mello?
Well, I understand the resolve, but I don't think it's necessary. I'd like to hear from the chief on what he thinks we should do. You have an opinion on this, chief?
We have a chair for the chief.
He can stand and grow tall.
He's coming up on your side.
Share with you that the 287G agreement is essentially authorization of deputizing local law enforcement with immigration enforcement authority. We've not asked for that, and I don't anticipate that we would be asking for that. Currently, we are not asking for that level of authorization. If we engage a person during normal police activity, normal police investigation, and there appears to be some documentation challenges with that individual, then we'll call on our federal partners for guidance. 287G doesn't disallow that or allow that. All 287G is doing currently is giving us immigration authority that we don't necessarily need. It doesn't change the fact that, like we spoke about earlier, if we're investigating a criminal activity and we have a person that may or may not have documentation challenges, we can investigate that and call on our federal partners for that. That clarifies it.
Well, yeah, for me, it clarifies the fact that I don't know that we need it at all. So I'll be voting against it. I don't like to see resolves keep coming up for every people. It's not necessary to do it. These answer all our questions.
Counselor
I agree. What he's done was also the walking in the city. I think now we're taking another step. I just don't know if we're going to stop. We can't do it. We're the wrong way. I just worry that we're not looking at city business, but we're looking to tell people how welcoming we are. And we are, we're doing it now. I just don't know if we should continue to be doing this stuff and not focusing on city. That's just kind of a hard thing about, this is really benign as far as I.
Yeah, I mean.
There isn't too much there, who wouldn't agree with it?
Right, right.
When do we stop doing this?
My opinion, I think the resolve, this isn't gonna change anything. We have to walk the walk. We have to come up with programs and run the city to the best of our ability and come up with policies that affect day-to-day life of all of our people. A resolve is read one time here. We ship it on to the council for a full vote, and then it's filed away. And the people that need to know that we're welcoming and wanting to help, and they may never see it. It's not something that's gonna be in the public eye. We are in the public eye. And it's how we handle ourselves and the business of the city and the people that come to talk to us at meetings. That's what's gonna make us welcoming. My opinion. Yes,
But
absolutely.
one thing that this has opened up is I don't think anyone in the city knew our feelings on this situation. The fact that we have so many people in fear would mean that they do not know that the police have decided not to enter. So at the very least, it has brought it to the forefront. And I do think at least a public statement of that admission would be nice. I think this is a fine piece of literature because it's comforting. You know, it's not, the first one was a little harsh. You know, the 287G is in here 5 times. It's in your face, and I don't think anyone would be comfortable with this. But the second one, I think, is fairly innocuous, and I would, you know, like I said, I would be supportive of it. But at the very least, I would like to see some kind of public admission that we are not comfortable with what's going on, so that our citizens will understand where we stand.
We actually talked about that a lot, Counselor, so thank you so much for bringing that up. Like, what is the best avenue? I mean, I do feel like we are here for results quite a bit, and so I understand, I've heard before that we don't want to be stuck in a cycle of having to affirm everything, and I completely appreciate that. This was brought to our attention after the Kobe event, which was a very, you know, large and widely publicized event, and for people who, it was clear that the Bangor Police Department were not involved in that. And that has come through a lot of the conversations. And while, yes, absolutely, this isn't going to say whether or not ICE comes to Bangor, being able to say loudly and affirmingly that there is a process in place. This was our public statement, right? Because we agree with you, like having a public statement, having it out there to say like, you are welcome here, and we are not going to make decisions in a vacuum. It's going to be open and conversational, and we want everyone to be a part of that, and not because we are trying to only care about of Bangorians. It's because our job as the advisory committee is to work to support and uplift and empower those folks who aren't at the center of every conversation. And so this was an opportunity to make that public statement in a way that was we thought, I hate to say at least benign, because I wanted to carry some measure of weight, but, you know, and outside of like pushing through a policy that says, you know, this is what we have to agree to in order to move through, or, you know, a resolve that named 287G 600 times. This was something that's a public statement that's like, hey guys, this is what we're doing and you're safe here because that information is not out there. And so I personally like would love to hear feedback, and maybe this is, you know, for our future, one of our conversations, our committee, how to make that more public, how to make that more widely known. Because it does feel like sometimes things happen in the silo and the people who do need to be hearing it aren't. And this is one way to mitigate that. But if you're all feeling differently, then what should we do?
Every time one of these comes up, it's the same excuse of, well, we already did this, the whataboutisms. Well, we already did this resolve. We already said this, we already said that. In my position, it's if there's any group in Bangor, Christian, Muslim, children, you name it, that are fearful under a purview that we can control, in this case, a 287 agreement, whether or not we agree with it, I'll write that ordinance myself. I'll write that resolve myself, because if I can do one thing as a counselor is to resolve someone's fear, that's the best thing I can do. And we spent more time talking about why we shouldn't do this. We could have voted on this and been done with it. If it's so benign, so, you know, it doesn't really say anything, we should have just voted the thing and been done with it. But we're the mental gymnastics over why we shouldn't and all that. I mean, the evidence is clear. This administration does not have the right, and the courts have upheld it again and again. So we've already thrown out the fear we're going to lose funding. That's gone. That's over with. Now it's an argument of, well, we already did this, we already did that. This is here in front of us now. And it's a simple yes vote, and we move on with it, and we let people know when it came down to putting in writing what we've been saying, that was a no-brainer. It was no problem. We were able to do that, and let's move on to the other city business. So I'm sorry to show the frustration, but this is such an easy thing. And I just really think that we need to support this and move on.
Not to repeat myself, but we're here to take care of Bangor city business. And we have all kinds of fears out there. And we've had other people come and ask us for resolves that we've rejected. But yeah, here we are again to say we're a safe and welcoming committee, our city. And I don't think that we need to draw our attention to ourselves that we are a political pawn for what happens to be a fear today or situation today. We haven't, until the chief or others, city departments or people come in and say, you know, this is happening, we can make resolves all day long about what might or might not happen. Are these things going on across the country? Yes. Are they going on in Bangor? No. And you're right,
They are.
spend a lot of time.
Apologies, my apologies for.
I'm sorry, sir.
They are happening. I just wanted to correct that factual in that.
We're here to take care of city business, and we have resolves come in. We've said no to some, and we've already said we're welcoming. So I see the point of this. I do appreciate the time that you came in to write this. As least damaging as possible as far as funding goes. But again, I think we've already said we're welcoming.
Maybe we should talk about the process. Sure. But let's just say that the police department decided next week that we did move it. And what I would take my thought. That was an example. So the process would be that we would have to first engage the city manager's office. And I anticipate that this topic would end up back at committee level for a public discussion. So long before the police department could engage in 287G agreement, there would be further public discussion on this before it reached the council for a final decision. Well, there would be a public vetting of this in any event, regardless of what occurs this evening. And if there was a decision at some point next week or next month or down the road, and would be a process necessary for the process. It would still be a public discussion on it long before it reached the council.
So, what's the pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we take this ordinance as written and we move it ahead to the full council for consideration.
Resolve. I mean, the
The
resolve.
resolve, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, the resolve. Thank you for correcting me. Yes, I would move that we move this resolve forward to the full council for review and action.
And I will second.
Moved and seconded that, this was forward to council for first question. Is there any
Roll call vote.
roll call vote? Council Dean,
Yes.
Council Fornia. Oh, that's right. What are you doing in here? This is best of us. Oh, no,
No,
that's okay. You're not either. Oh, jeez. You make the motion.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Okay. We'll send it for discussion. We'll go to maybe a workshop. We'll do a workshop? Absolutely. Have a little bit of time. Okay. Gonna go on for further discussion.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much
I
for
really
your time.
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, our next item is a warming center update.
Skip it now. I.
Hi, good evening, Dan Gunderman, Director of Bangor. Thanks for having me here tonight. And I want to start off by apologizing. I have been made aware of some of the community feedback from and after reading it, I can absolutely see concerns that it was void of compassion and urgency and a real concern for our community. And I think it maybe sent a message that wasn't meant. And I want to be really clear tonight that with the colder weather coming, today, but we have a population of people who are going to be unhoused that are at very high risk for very serious life. And we have to. So I just want to make sure that that was clear, because it's not clear. So the memo that I provided, it does provide a bit of a summary of what is kind of the current landscape around the warming. And as been depicted in the media and that you probably have heard in the community, currently we do have a gap in beds. We thought that there wasn't going to be a gap if all the current organizations with their expansion were going to be funded to do what they were proposing. That is not what happened. So the Brick Church didn't receive the main housing funding for their expansion. I just want to set also the context that addressing the winter is definitely a multi-pronged approach. The first approach being trying to get people inside, like engaging now, whether that's housing, through housing vouchers or other programs, by getting people into shelter, or reuniting them with healthy social networks, whether that's inside or outside of Bangor. So the first prong of that approach is who is unhoused? How can we have a concerted, coordinated effort to get people the support they need to get? The other third prong approach are warming centers. There are warming centers like the Well, who are open during the day. And then there are warming shelters like the Mansion and what was the Brick Church last year that offer beds at night. Bangor Area Homeless Shelter is not doing a warming center at night. They've expanded by, I think, about 5 beds in the evening as part of their shelter. But the Bangor Area Homeless Shelter warming shelter in the evening last year, they didn't offer beds, they offered a place to bed. So we do have a gap. And then the Eagle Point Sanctuary in conjunction with the Youth Church will be offering a shelter
overnight, it was really cold evenings. So the void that's left. Jenna Jones has been in constant conversation with a number of organizations in our community who are starting to step forward. And we've got organizations saying, I've got volunteers, I've got a location, I've got beds. Like, no one organization is coming forward and saying, I've got the full package, including all the funding, but we're getting a number of organizations that are coming up and saying, I can take a piece, I can take a piece. We can work together. The missing piece is funding, to be able to buy cots, to be able to, whatever is the bill to pay the heat. And so one of the things that I'm coming here to propose to you this evening is that we are receiving a one-time general assistance as payback check from the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, general assistance does pay for emergency shelter beds. However, for that to happen requires a bit of an administrative burden on the shoulders of the organization. They've got to make sure someone is GA eligible. They've got to file paperwork very quickly. It's a burden, and it definitely takes very designated. So what I'm suggesting for you tonight for discussion is that we use some of that funding to support warming shelter or shelters, that we put out an application very quickly to allow for that equitable application for a proposal, and then use those about $60,000 of those GA funds to support a warming or shelter. And then the remaining of the GA would go back. So, and by giving that one-time allotment, it would reduce that burden on an organization to do all the things that need to happen in a typical emergency. The other sort of thing that we will continue to do as a city that we've done in the past with our community partners, for the other problem is that during the winter, we have outreach staff. It's a small part of the approach to make sure that people have blankets or the hand warmers, or making sure they have bus passes to be able to get to a warming shelter center. Our outreach also works with other organizations, go around to the warming shelters, work with people to fill into housing, offer anxiety screening through all those other things. So this is not a perfect plan by any stretch. I think that for long term, the city really is going to have to think about what best for that predictability, stability, assurance will absolutely take place. But that is what I come to.
It's okay.
As far as the brick church, what happened with their funding? It was delayed in their application, so they didn't get the funding, but they're also looking for shelter beds,
Yeah.
which would take longer than getting the funding for warming center. Is that part of the problem?
So my understanding is that they put in a few applications, that were not funded for different. My understanding is that they attempted to do a GoFundMe campaign. I don't think that was as successful as they had hoped it to be. Jenna Jones has worked to direct them to other possible funding sources that they could.
So would part of the 60,000 that you go to someone like the brick church is already established, or is this for a new facility?
So this is where we would allow equitable access. So it could be for anyone who that application to have really basic. Do you have a staff? What is your location? Does it meet the code? What is, your administrative capacity and those other infrastructure? So basically we received a lot of what the main housing application was and really cut it down to what are the basics, including what is your budget? How would you spend the amount of money that so what we have found is that with this with this problem that we have is that there are actually other organizations who want to step into this space as well. That have some infrastructure capacity or ready to do the work and who have experience of working with the population.
I think concurrent, if council were to be interested in an application process, that would concurrently require sort of the priority deployment of all the other city resources like code to really prioritize, you know, through expedited processes, approval to do the things that folks want to do in a particular building. Sure, there are other places, fire, for example, confirming health and safety things on a really expedited basis because we are under an incredibly collapsed timeline.
And I would also say that I know that the church had asked for about $400,000 for their expansion and for other parts of their building. With them not getting the funding, again, they would be able to address this. I don't know if anything had been thought and ready to go. So I don't, where their status is isn't really clear. But what we know is that there are other organizations that we actually. And so what Jen has been doing is saying, okay, this person has come forward with a whole bunch of volunteers. This location's come together with a place. Let's connect them, but funding is the surprise.
Council Miller and then Council Turner.
What's the downside of spending the money for this? What would it normally have been used for?
Well, normally we wouldn't have gotten this check.
But we did, so
So we did.
what was the intention of the check coming to us? What was the intention of it being used for?
It would just go back into GA fund to pay for pretty much emergency shelters and housing.
It's, if I may, it's worth noting that when we spend $1 on GA, we get 70 cents back. So in theory, the state is reimbursing us additional dollars to help offset that burden that we spend on GA.
But we don't know how much we're gonna spend on GA this year, so we don't know how much of a burden it's going to be in later days.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have numbers of that so far?
I don't. I think we're pretty much on course from what we did last year. Again, incurring the 30% and the state covering the 70%.
So this 60 is part of the 70% the state?
No,
This is in addition to.
So last year, I believe this is actually like FY 24 or 23. I'm sorry, I don't have that right in front of me. So whatever year that was, the state has always paid 70% and we've paid 30%. For the FY 24, I believe it was, DHHS sent us back a check to help offset that 30% a little bit more. This year will be the same thing. The state will pay 70%, we will pay 30%. And I don't have the numbers right in front of you, me and I can get those for you. I believe in talking with GA, we're pretty much on course as last year.
But the 60 could have been a one-shot deal. We don't know if we get it next year.
So the total is actually 156.
Okay. Oh, the 156.
Yes, we don't know.
Council Fish.
With the service providers that we've partnered with before. And there's bits and pieces that each one was kind of offered. You must sort of identify those that could perhaps get the 60,000 and put it to the best use to help the greater number.
Yes, Jen has been doing a really great job of communicating with a lot of the organizations. And so if you decided to want to go down that route, there would be people to be to as a collaborative.
Council Beck.
Do we know the shortfall of warming center slots that the 60,000 is gonna cover? Do we know how much we need?
So when we kind of did some guesstimating, knowing that we cover about 30% of GA, I think we were looking at about 60 beds that this would cover. I have to go back and look at the numbers. It was at least 60 beds that GA would have covered for that amount, if not more.
Sure, and then I guess my next question, do we know just a straight up shortfall? Like what is the situation?
So that number kind of changes almost a little bit because, you know, the mansion has increased by, I think, 25 beds, Bangor Air increased by 5. So it depends, and again, UU Church will open periodically. I think we were looking at about 70 or so beds. Those are numbers I can get back to.
Sure. And then as far as the funds go, I mean, 'cause my concern about an RFP process is, you know, how long would it take to get the money out into the hands of folks? Whereas if you are already having meetings and Jen is already having meetings and already has an idea, I mean, I'm curious, what are the organizations that stepped up?
I think in talking with Jenna, these conversations are still pretty preliminary.
Okay.
At this point, want to keep those conversations down low until there's, I mean, this is all kind of happening really quickly. I would say the one thing, you know what, I think I agree, an RFP could that stall the process. If we can pull the important pieces out of the main housing application and say, look, at these are the 4 things we want to cover, I think that we could do something very quickly. My fear is that because there's more organizations coming to the table, to pick one over the other right now just concerns me.
Sure.
Out of curiosity, do the other surrounding communities, did they receive money back on their GA also?
Some other community members, there's a document that gives the list of the town.
So has Jenna approached them with contributing to it, or are we just looking at us? to contribute?
So we are general assistants, we're responsible for residents of
Oh,
Bangor.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, it's a community effort, so if you have people from Brewer coming to Bangor to be housed, and they're getting extra money this year, are we asking for any cooperation from anyone, or are we saying we'll take the burden?
I absolutely hear what you're saying. GA is a little bit tricky. If someone from Brewer comes into Bangor, it's a fine line. We actually still need to pay out of Bangor GA unless the city of Brewer specifically sent them over.
But also, if I may, so the amount that was given back to those other municipalities, it was based on a formula in terms of how much they've been spending on GA.
Right.
So again, they received their fair share in order to help offset that 30% that the state was not contributing to. So you could argue that it was kind of proportionate in terms of how much we received versus Brewer as it relates to how much GA we have been spending on that sort of assistance.
So that's the point. We spend more on GA, so we're getting more back. They spend
Yes.
less and they're getting less back.
That is true.
But they're still getting the same percentage back. And if we're looking to spend a portion of our percentage, then these other towns should be interested in cooperating and spending a portion of theirs. We can't carry the buck all the time.
Councilwoman Atkinson.
Thank you. When you started off, mentioned about the memo, but you didn't do anything wrong. You absolutely denied. We're just outlining the issue at hand, and you did a good job. I can't really be over what you're proposing. I think it makes a lot of sense. Okay.
I do want to add one of the things that's also a little bit different from this winter compared to still happening. That people were hunkering down. So there is that, probably we will have to see.
Sure. I mean, I want to ask the hard question. I think we know the answer to it, but I just want to hear it out loud. If we don't act, will people die?
I don't have a crystal ball, but what I know is that people will be that will threaten their well-being.
Sure. And here's the reason why I asked, because we are talking about lives here. And so risk to life and limb, I can't think of any other situation that wouldn't be an emergency. And first of all, you know, this is wonderful that you've brought this forward, because to this point, we've kind of been in a situation where we've relied on this fragile network of nonprofits to pull this off. And now here's our municipality saying, you know what, we're going to take a little charge here and do what we can to help. That said, knowing that this is an emergency, throwing something else on the table here to kind of help and also kind of grease the skids a little bit is, our city manager has the ability to declare an emergency. And then, frees up some funding and as far as decision-making process, I'm not looking for the decision on that tonight, but I just want to throw it out there that, the messaging that I'm hearing from people is they want to know that we're treated as an emergency. And I think it's clear, you like you said tonight, this is a big deal. And I guess the messaging I want people to hear is that the city of Bangor will not leave anyone out this winter. Will not. These deaths are avoidable. We're going to do everything we can, which is what I'm hearing that we're going to attempt to do. But to that end, I just want it out there that if we need to declare an emergency, we need to do it and do everything we can to save these lives, because these are lives, regardless of reimbursements or that kind of thing. I mean, we got to save lives. These are people living in Bangor, and these are lives.
Councilor Fournier, you were in favor of. But did you not say, is that what you said? That you would be in
Absolutely.
favor?
I mean, to me, it's, we're getting creative, and that's what we need to be doing right now.
Okay.
And we've had organizations reach out to us today wanting to help financially.
I also think it's doable, but I think we have to move on it.
Yes.
We can't have any more meetings. We can't wait to get a decision on what we're gonna do next, because you've got to get your people going and gathering. Would you be able to support that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm in favor of two things. One, the 60,000. I mean, truly on the grand scale thing, it's a gesture. It's a gesture. I mean, $400 a day to house 75 people or so, that you can't do that. I mean, it's not, but this, and I don't say that with any reflection on the staff. I am glad that this was brought forward because the direction comes from council. And I would say that not only do I support this as a starting point, and whether it becomes from emergency declaration from the city manager or however we do it, we may end up having to do more, but also I don't want to see an RFP process. I want to trust our staff who's in these conversations. I appreciate the idea of equitable access, but also, we've got the boots on the ground who are going to be able to strategically spend these dollars, and I want to make sure that staff's empowered to do that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It's an absolute balance between wanting to get this out and making sure that it's done.
Yep.
Councilman Mellon.
Yes.
Would you be able to support this?
I don't have any issue with providing services for the homeless as far as and a warming shelter. My big concern, and I know we're not going to resolve the issue now, is that I'm tired of everyone expecting Bangor to do everything. We have surrounding communities that have money that they can share with us, and they refuse to. I'm offended by that. No, I'll support it, but I think we have to do something at the county level or the state level to require surrounding communities to participate. And we don't do that.
I hear you.
Yeah, I know, it's
And I
it's
can tell you
unfortunate.
that our GA works really hard, that when we see that starting to happen, that they are on the phone. We try and use the policy and the procedure to the best of our ability. So I just want you to know.
No, I
that
understand that, but I know also that some neighboring communities close their GA office and put a sign on the door, go to Bangor. That's not appropriate. If you have people that require GA, that's your responsibility. I don't care who the town is, and I don't care if their office is closed. Someone has to be able to provide that service, and they're not doing it. And we have to pick up the extra, and I don't like it. Our taxpayers cannot afford to fund everyone.
So if we proceed with this, what next steps? What do you need?
We will get an application by the end of the week for people to apply to and next, and then after that, we gotta work very quickly on that.
Okay. What do you need?
I think we need a sort of council vote to proceed, and then the accepting of the money will be on the next council agenda for you to approve the accepting and appropriating of the full $156,000, but we won't pause work waiting for that outcome will start the
Okay.
process.
I think I have a question is what role city council wants to have in looking at applications and helping to select? Is that something that you just want us to come to and say, these are the strongest?
You know, the staff can do that, you know,
Okay,
that
I
is
just
a
wanted
to
to make sure that that was.
Good point to say it aloud, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or just stall it another week, another week.
Okay, so we need a motion then.
Which is question, so do you want, cause we talked about whether or not to do an RFP or not, so we've agreed that we're not gonna do an RFP, so do you want that all in one motion to say? We like the proposal and we're not gonna go, we don't want to be part of the RFP, we're gonna let staff do it.
Just gives you something that you.
Yeah, that we can move it.
Okay.
Sure, well, then, yeah, I'll definitely make the motion to accept that amount and that proposal.
Second.
Second that.
I'm just confused, which amount are we talking about, the 60 or the one to accept the one?
Yeah.
What are we going to use for the warming center? 156?
It'll be the 60. And like, I believe the council order that you have in here will need to be modified slightly to separate out the 60,000.
Break it out.
That's what I was concerned.
Yes,
It's just the record, it's a resolve because you're accepting appropriating money, so it is
Sorry.
start meetings.
Thank you, I did make it.
Move and second. And there's what, 4 of us.
I just wanted to make a comment, Joe, whatever you need, whatever you see, don't be shy about coming to us and just tell it to us straight and, you know, we gotta take care of this and I appreciate you being in the front of this.
So. We next have a request to apply for grant funding for multi-use headset system for the fire department. In the amount of $10,000.
Yes, I can
It's on its
read both of you, but I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they sat through this whole time,
They've been
so.
sitting there a long time.
Hello, and Assistant Fire Chief Chad Bean, thanks for coming.
Really excited. So, Chad is gonna do the presentation tonight. I'm gonna be his emotional support chief.
Yeah, I apologize for getting you the material late, Courtney. I know it kind of came up upon us pretty quick. We're kind of hog-tied by a deadline of Thursday. We're applying for a firehouse sub-grant for hearing protection and communication devices for our engines. And we've been successful with this grant in the past. One of our current firehouse we got in 2020 through this grant process for, I think it was around 13,000. It's a relatively small grant in the grand scheme of things for us, but certainly worthwhile and anytime we can take. It's pretty much. Way that this particular grant process works is the portal will open on Thursday morning, the 9th. They only accept the first 600 applicants from around the country, so I'll be sitting there at 10 a.m. with my finger on the button, ready to submit. We'll be fully prepared for that beforehand. I apologize that I don't have a quote for you. We're working on that, but we absolutely will have it.
And just to elaborate, because this is coming to committee before the deadline, but the actual council approval will be after, it will be in the form of a resolve ratifying staff action to apply. But it will note the fact that this came to the committee.
So we've heard the concerns about, late submissions or after approval and stuff like that. We definitely don't want to be doing that. This is, like Chad said, this just happened to drop. It's one of those that drops and you've got to be quick.
We actually had some ideas, I think, for possibly 2026. Maybe this isn't even the right time to even mention it, but there's probably 10 to 12 grant opportunities every year that I think we'd like to take advantage of. I don't know if there's a way for us to get people in the year, to apply for these things, or is it something we have to come back for every, I apologize. Yes.
I think we can talk about that,
love
offline.
grant.
I think that was-
Perfect.
Yeah.
And the two of you can
Yeah.
actually
Yes.
best lay out the issue.
Sounds great. Right into this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. So does publicly stating that Firehouse subs are delicious, does that improve your chances at all, or?
I hope so, yeah, I do, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, motion.
Yeah,
Any motion?
yeah, I'll make a motion to give permission.
Need a second? Second. Seconded, this will go on, as a result. On the 15th.
Excellent. Thank you.
Wednesday, the 15th.
Thank you.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Jeff. I would assume that we will see Director Willett will be. I think you might. This is an order authorizing the name of the golf course clubhouse to John Frawley Clubhouse in honor of former city engineer John Frawley. Hello.
Hey, yes, all that. As you had provided background, we've been tasked by staff to recognize former city engineer and golf course supporter. He was one of the founding fathers, if you will, of the original golf course back with Austin Kelly in 1964. So for the scene appropriate worthy of consideration should be clubhouse, the golf course, John Frawley.
And just for the record, per the naming of city-owned property policy, this item was reviewed and recommended for approval by the advisory committee on racial equity and inclusion and human rights. And of course, as part of that policy, we always allow or encourage public comment for items such as this. This one flew, I think, a little bit under the radar, just a little bit, but yeah. As Director Willett mentioned, Mr. Frawley worked for the city from 1960 to 1992. And so he played an integral part in a lot of various infrastructure improvements, including out of the golf course. So, excuse me, if this is moved forward to council, it would see formal approval, and then we would certainly make sure to hold some sort of ceremony and make sure that the council was involved in that. And that certainly Mr. Frawley is notified and invited to attend as honoree as well.
Well, they also would have time at an opportunity at the city council meeting.
Correct, that is absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think we only have 3 people in the room.
We'll have more than that.
Council meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
She's gonna say his comment. Okay, yes, ma'am?
I will make a motion to name the clubhouse after John Frawley.
No, seconded. Is there any discussion? The opposition,
Thank you.
seeing none, you can go. All right. Next, ordinance proposed amendment to appeals fees. Isn't that appeal fees?
I will defer to the assistant city solicitor, Grace Ennis.
That read strange, but maybe not.
So, yes, when people go to the Board of Appeals, we charge a appeal fee to cover administrative time and however, it was determined that charging that fee for disability variances and the Federal Fair Housing Act is more combination will be a violation of PDA and the federal. So we've come up with just a really simple amendment that you guys see here, just to allow for those two things. An appeal fee would be waived. And we don't see these super often, I think, since I've been here. So anyways, that was I wanted to read to you guys.
Any questions on the proposed amendment? I assume you are going to draft this. Show us one.
But I did attach the proposed amendments to it, and then,
Yeah, so this would have 2 readings, first reading at the next meeting and final reading at the end of the month.
Okay.
I would make a comment. I mean, this really gets into the minutia of law. So my thanks for catching this and bringing the correction to us.
Any other comments? Questions? Motion? Yeah, we do need a motion.
I would make a motion to accept the recommended changes and move it on to council.
Second. And we do have a second. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, no further discussion, it will move on to council. Thank you. Okay, people say for all this time and you can't specify. All right, Maine Municipal Association voting delegate credentials.
Yeah, so at the MMA convention later this week, they do MMA, Maine Municipal Association does hold a business meeting. And so every year we always ask for the committee's approval in order to designate an official voting delegate at that meeting. And I believe that may be Carolyn Lear, city manager this year, although I do believe Rick Fournier will be there as well, so perhaps he wants to be the voting delegate. He does not. And so if you all are comfortable with the city manager being that delegate, I just need a motion designating that. And we will sign off on this and provide it to MMA.
Do we have a motion to have Carolyn Lear be the voting delegate? Oh, we have it so moved.
I'll second.
Made the whole thing, but that was me. That's all you have to say.
Seeing no opposition to that, I guess Carolyn Lear will be the voting delegate at MMA. Next, we have city manager or assistant city manager update.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Carolyn kick this one off with the fun topic of federal shutdown.
So, Councilor Beck actually asked that I talk briefly about the government shutdown and its impact on the city. You know, I think we should start by saying the primary impact is to our residents at this point. I think what I would expect to see is residents who need to engage with agencies like the Social Security Administration having a hard time getting in touch with those agencies because large proportions of those agencies are going to be severely short of staff at the moment. But it will have some impact on the city, which I will sort of run through as it relates to both business and economic development and public health. Two programs, particularly the CDBG program, and then much of public health's funding flows from the federal government. We would expect to see delays in our reimbursement. So both of those programs primarily operate on a we spend it up front and then get reimbursed for it model. It's delays, not complete stoppages, for that very reason that most of the agencies that we're interacting with, they've not sent 100% of their staff home. They've sent a percentage of their staff home. So, and as time passes, we would expect those delays to get more and more pronounced. For departments like wastewater, that occasionally needs to have really meaningful interactions with federal agencies like EPA. Should they need to reach EPA, it's unlikely that they're going to get a timely response. But in speaking with wastewater specifically, they don't have anything currently pending that they're concerned about. So it's certainly not, I don't want to oversell an emergency there. Particularly with respect to public health and WIC, because that money flows sort of federal to state and then down to us, public health has been in contact with the state, and they're told that the state has about a month on hand in funding, and that we could start seeing a dry up of WIC funding. That's certainly concerning. And then there are some sort of, I guess, inconveniences that can be managed with various federal agencies where we might normally interact with them to receive information. So for example, if a GA applicant comes in and needed to prove that they had pending applications with Social Security or other DHHS, other agencies, we would typically reach out to those agencies and try to get proof, and we're unlikely to get responses. Those are things that we can sort of work around with inconvenience. They won't be complete stoppages, but they will certainly slow down work. And then I was particularly interested to hear from Jose this morning on the topic. At this point, all of the TSA agents are coming to work. They're required to work, despite the fact that they will not receive a paycheck during the shutdown. The first paycheck that will be impacted by the shutdown will be the one that the TSA received on 10/11. And that will be a short paycheck because of how the shutdown impacted a pay period. And then the following 2-week paycheck, they will be working without compensation. So certainly from Jose's perspective, the longer that persists, the more likely it becomes that TSA agents stop coming to work. That would be a problem for our airport for sure. So it's definitely a situation that is concerning and that we're monitoring, but there's no sort of immediate emergency to manage. It's just sort of monitoring and determining when we need to panic.
I did the question about that, just as a stopgap. Could we get these emails from the National League of Cities and they talk about, ways that municipalities can kind of help bridge the gap and pay temporarily? Is that an option we can explore if we get to that point where hey, I don't know how to describe it other than a payday loan kind of thing where we're willing to front you to keep you going and then work it out with you to get it returned to the municipality once your pay is returned to you. Anything is something we can do to step in.
For residents who are
for
federal employees.
Yep.
I mean, it's certainly something that we could explore, if that were the will of council. I mean, I think we're a big enough city that we have cash on hand. So it's certainly something that we could likely do. Would probably be an interesting and new process because we've not done that sort of thing before, but I have to imagine it's feasible, particularly. And I imagine that organizations like National League of Cities have resources as well. So.
Good? All right, mine are really quick. So just a heads up, that with the new council year, we will be seeking to replace your iPads with Surface Pros, which are much more like a normal sort of PC, and hopefully, actually just help troubleshoot some issues with Mass 360 earlier today. Oh, yep, you're welcome to leave if you'd really like to. And so by updating and upgrading, and also integrating with our recent Office 365 movement, this will be right in line with that and hopefully streamline access, and give you guys tools that are helpful to make sure that you're able to access the information you need in order to do your jobs effectively. And with that will actually come a change away from Zoom for these meetings to Teams. Right now, we've been paying since the pandemic for a good number of Zoom accounts, but now that we have implemented Office 365, we can actually stop paying Zoom as Teams is included in the package that we're already paying for. And so that will result in some savings. And so we will be seeking to put out some public notices, sort of priming people, letting them know that Zoom will remain an option for a little while, and then it will be going away. Access is similar, like most folks, if they're using Zoom to participate, have already downloaded Zoom. It's a similar thing for Teams, but you can also participate through your web browser. So the accessibility looks a little different, but should still be there. And so we will be pushing that information out there. And then just a quick update that we continue to work with the organization that helped us with the AV for this room for chambers. We are still looking to install some monitors, additional mics, eventually another camera. And so I actually had folks texting me earlier and saying that the audio quality still is not great when we're at the table. I hear that. We're looking for an immediate solution while we work out longer term ones as well, because we certainly want to make sure that people, especially going back to YouTube, can pull up these videos and have a good sense of what happened without audio issues interrupting that. So we continue to chip away and work hard on that for long-term sustainable solutions to make sure AV in this room is what it needs to be. And my only other update that's not on the list, but I feel obligated to mention it, is your council appointee evaluations are due Sunday, technically Monday because Monday's a holiday. So, if you guys are all able to participate, regardless of whether or not you're on those committees, that's really helpful feedback for each of the appointees. I take all that, compile it, I make sure you guys have good, solid information for those meetings with each appointee later in October. So that's it.
I sent those, you should have had them.
I have received responses from a few of you.
Okay.
And that's through the Survey Monkey. I have gotten
Yeah.
a request for paper forms, so if there's any others, let me know. That's not an issue at all. In fact, Survey Monkey allows me to print it pretty easily, and then you can just write over it and I'll enter it so that it's all in one sort of format. Not a huge deal.
I just wanted to say, hey, Route U, Route B being merged back together on Monday.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Actually, the combined routes of Center Street and Hammond Street for the community connector were combined due to staffing shortages. We are able, effective Monday the 13th, we will actually bring those back out as separate routes with the goal of actually bringing back the other Cape Heart run that was also reduced. And so what we're trying to do is we have a lot of things in the pipeline. And so our goal is to move back toward full service. But want to do it in a sustainable way because we don't want to bring service back and then have to pull it back and do that yo-yo. But it's absolutely great news. And we've already heard from several passengers that are very delighted to see that service return. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm Route U, so big fan of your work.
Awesome. Okay.
Is that it?
Yep.
No further business. We are adjourned at 8:43.
Thank you.